Good evening and welcome to TDM Talk Show. Climate change is one of the most crucial challenges of our time. It's definitely on the agenda at a global scale, and more so since the Paris Agreement. The younger generations play a key role in tackling this problem, and Macau is no exception. Our guests have been leading the way. They established VChange, a student organization dedicated to environmental protection. Sophie Chen and Lilian Wang are undergraduate students at the University of Macau. Sophie and Lilian, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sophie, let's start by telling you telling us your story. You are majoring in international relations.
Yes.
Tell us when and how you first came across this issue of climate change and being involved in these kind of activities.
Okay, so my interest in dealing with climate change actions is because of a time when I watched the television. I saw a mother from the Marshall Islands, which is a small island on the Pacific Ocean. She is reading a poetry for her baby girl, saying that they deserve more than just survive because their country is facing a threat from the sea level rising because of climate change. And for that moment, it is the first time that I get to know that what's the meaning of climate justice, and I decided that I have to do something.
How old were you back then?
It's like in junior school, so maybe 13, 14 years old that time, yes. And then I decided to join this fight against this common challenge of our mankind. And in college, in university, I founded the VChange environmental working group because when in 2015, when I become a volunteer for a climate conference in Shenzhen, I saw those green leaders from all parts of the world, but I'm the only one from Macau. And then I started to ask myself, I saw those green leaders from Hong Kong, from mainland China, from Taiwan. What about those young people who share the same dreams and who share the same concerns with me? What if they also want to take a lead in this action, so that when I come back to my university, I was very lucky because I met 4 other girls, and one of them is sitting beside me, Lilian, and together we founded this organization because we think that as students of we have an obligation to take the lead in Macau.
And that's what you're doing. So you're 2 out of the 5 young undergraduate students who founded this VChange group. And Lilian, you're studying accounting, so different background. And the same question, your story, just before you came to meet Sophie.
Because I'm from the northern part of China, and the air pollution is quite severe than in the north part of China.
You are from Xi'an?
Yes, I'm from Xi'an. So the first time when I came to Macau in 2013, I was surprised by the fresh air, and especially I remember it had the smell of a sweet fruit, maybe the mango. I was just surprised and want to do something. And so in 2013, my university life begins, and also began with my environmental protection life. I found a local NGO. I joined an NGO, and in my 3rd year, I participated the COP21 and also founded the VChange with Sophia. And I don't want to be the person who waits for everything. I want to take the action.
So you thought this is about time to put your thoughts into action, right?
Yes.
So when you were founding this group called VChange, tell us about it. Did you get some immediate good feedback, positive feedback from your peers, from your classmates, from your colleagues? What about the university as an institution? What about the professors? How has it been? Sophie?
Yes, I want to. I'm very grateful to the university and also especially my college, the Munchen Memorial College, where our professors and my college master they provided great support to our organization because our college is an European style college and which brings in European thought, which includes climate change to us. So with their support, we managed to organize several kinds of activities with the students in the college, and within university and within our college, we managed to try to persuade people from changing their lifestyle and towards a more environmental friendly living style. Yes.
And Lilian, do you see the University of Macau as, or the campus as a sort of green campus, or at least becoming a green campus?
Yes, because before I went to COP21, I was required to organize post-COP activities named COP in my city. And Sophia and I invited two young leaders in climate change issues. One is from Taiwan, who is the coordinator of East Asia campaign, and the other guest is from Southern China chapter in VChang, and both of them shared their own stories about climate change and some severe actions in taking action to protect the environment. And all the participants in my university was surprised, and maybe they have never know these kind of stories, and they really interested, show their interest in this kind of environmental working groups. So I think that marks the beginning of our VChange group.
You've mentioned a couple of times already that this, I guess, must have been a very interesting experience that you had in COP21. You participated in a side event of the conference, right?
Yes, yes.
Held in Paris, where you discuss issues with the young people from other countries, namely from Asia.
Yes.
Tell us about that interaction and that exchange in Paris.
In Paris, well, it has been more than 1 year since I participated COP21, but what's impressed me a lot is still the young people, the youth section. When you go to the activity area, you can see a lot of young people wearing their traditional costumes to draw people's attention about the vulnerable living conditions affected by the climate change. And on the first night of COP21, I had a chance to participate in Young Go conference. Young Go is an organization of young NGO all over the world. And at that conference, more than 100 young people gathered together to decide how to make unified and powerful action in the negotiation area to draw the negotiators' attention and push them to accelerate the process of negotiation. And in the end, we decided to use the performance arts to make them awareness of young people. We really care about the climate change. So at the second day in the afternoon of the second day, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all of the young people in the negotiation area suddenly laid on the ground. At the same time, we carry out a suspension animation performance, and which attracts a lot of negotiators, and also I think maybe several presidents and also the journalists. We really care about the climate change, and fortunately, after the 2 weeks of the negotiation, Paris Agreement has reached successfully. So I'm very happy about that.
Mm-hmm. What about the implementation? Of course, we have the agreement, but there are a number of obstacles in order to implement the goals and to make sure that there's a monitoring mechanism so countries will, at the end of the day, of course, not only ratify but implement the deal. Sophie, you've been looking into this. What's your take?
Yes, I think the major obstacles that in front of our this agreement is posed by Donald Trump, the newly elected United States president, who
That would be my next question, precisely.
Yes.
You can move on to that one, of course.
Yes, who openly says that he's going to ban the Paris Agreement when in his campaign, and also 3 months after he is elected, from all those appointments of those new government officials, like for example, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, and also Donald Trump's Energy Secretary, all of those people has expressed a point of view that reflects the commitment of Trump to deregulate the fossil fuel energy sectors.
It's already happening. There was an executive order issued very, very recently
yes,
in that direction.
Yeah, which generate great criticism in our field. And then, but my point of view is there are several facts that Trump should pay attention to. And the first one is, in a recent poll, it is said that almost 7% of the citizens in the United States shows their concerns to climate change.
Almost 70, right?
Yeah, almost 70%. And also, the government should have to respond to these public concerns and demands. And secondly, Donald Trump can still realize his commitments in the campaigns by focusing on the renewable energy, because another survey, another report from the U.S. Energy and Employment Agency in this year, it shows that there are already 1 million of people who are working in the renewable energy industry, which is almost 5 times the employment in those coal and fuel industry. And while this doesn't mean that the fuel and coal industry won't generate any jobs, but for politicians who want to create jobs in those communities, clean energy is the path to go. And then, it is not clear that whether Donald Trump will finally ban the agreement or not, but I believe that even if the United States withdraw from this agreement, the universal campaign on this climate change issue will still continue. And my point of view is based on demonstrations of how the agreement is negotiated. So from the negotiation process, we see that there is a big transformation from a top-down architecture from the Kyoto Protocol to a bottom-up architecture under the Paris Agreement.
With more involvement of NGOs and the civil society.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That point is what I want to emphasize on. We need local support. We need those norms, and those norms are crucial to what in the respect or in the aspect of international law, what we call customary law, and that norms are the fundamental basis of it. So the adoption of this agreement actually indicates that there is already a common cognitive foundation for this issue. So I think even the president shows a passive attitude on this climate change issue. We as NGO, as young people, and as private sectors leaders will still continue on this momentum. Yes.
Lilian, do you share this optimism? Sophie is somehow hinting at the following, that even though we have Donald Trump as US president, he's highly skeptical with regards to climate change, global warming, and the human element and factor here. Do you see things moving on despite Trump?
I agree with Sophia because I think this is what I and Sophia is doing in university. We want to inspire the university students and to call up a cooperative and collective action towards climate change. So I think there is always a gap between the intention and the action. Everyone realizes the air pollution, they know the sea levels raises, but who is gonna take the responsible? Everyone is waiting for others, maybe the government, but I think it is us, the young people or everyone, no matter how old are you, who take the responsible. So I agree with Sophia.
And of course, we are in China, and China is alongside the United States the top emitter and polluter. I mean, with regards to China, there's a number of challenges, for sure. How do you regard, Lilian, the challenges ahead of China? I mean, one thing is, of course, to endorse the Paris Agreement, but the transformation that it implies, it is a huge one, right?
Yes. Although the Paris Conference has reached an agreement that allows nearly 200 countries around the world to agree on actions coping with climate change, the controlling carbon emissions means that countries must implement energy transformation and gradually get rid of fossil fuels. So as China, I think the most important issue is how the government invested most. Where did they invest more effort? But I think the important environments they need to engagement is education. Just as Sophia mentioned before, from the down level to the upper level is what we do in the university and in school. We need to inspire students and to draw their attention and to take action in school and universities. I think this is the essential way to solve the problem.
And talking about taking action, Sophie, you are involved in another organization, which is the China Youth Climate Action Network.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes, that's an NGO in China that I belong to, and I work as an analysis of international climate negotiation in that NGO, and I provide academic and research support for our representative to the Paris Conference, and my major focus is on those negotiations related to climate governance.
And now talking about China, of course, there's so many challenges. Let's say, for instance, the transformation from coal-based model to an environmentally friendly model. That will take time, and probably I would say that it will be an uneven and also asymmetric kind of path because of the different stages of development with regards to the green economy in the different provinces of China. How do you regard this?
Yes, we have already seen that China has made a huge effort on realizing its pledge, and yes, the energy transformation that you mentioned is one of it, and there is, of course, a huge challenge in this issue. That is, the first one, I think, is the issue of there is a great amount of stranded assets that because coal and fuel industries are those traditionally huge industry that support Chinese economy, and in order to transform these assets, the government will need to show more support to technological innovation, for example. And also another big problem to this is there are 500,000 employers from this traditional industry who needs to be resettled, and that means we need a stronger social security system, and we need to provide professional training for those workers who are going to losing their jobs, and also we need government supports and subsidies for those new industry to shows up, and And I think this is quite a big challenge for China, especially now we are entering into a new common situation of economic growth nowadays. Yes.
And Lilian, of course, a number of steps have already been taken, but we are probably not even halfway through before we get there. What do you think needs to be sped up with regards to public policies in China? What has to be done quicker and faster in order to get there?
Well, last summer, when I participated in a summer program in France, I had a chance to visit a local paper recycling company. And I was surprised that they really made a lot of profit through paper recycling, maybe millions of euros per year. I was surprised because environmental protecting doesn't mean you always keep sacrificing something you can earn at the same time. So I think China can do something better in this technology area to make some more investments, to provide some environmental friendly innovations and to help we get rid of fossil fuels in the future.
And when we're talking about, there's of course, when you look at the impact of climate change, rising sea levels is of course a big issue. And here in Macau, Macau would be at risk because of the geography of the region. Do you see people really looking and having a clear picture of what might happen if the world fails to take action and if we really cannot reverse this?
Yes. Currently, I worked in an NGO and named Cross-Border Environment Concern Associations. And 2 years ago, we want to organize some environmental activities. So we sent over 500 questionnaires in Macau. And in the central bus station to ask them their knowledge, their how they care about the environment. But nearly over half of them did not know their like some basic questions like the water resource of Macau. Half of them think the resources is from Macau, but actually it's from Zhuhai. So I think Macau has a long way to go in this environmental protection, especially in the basic knowledge education area.
Sophie,
Yes.
Are people, locals, truly aware of what's at stake here, of the impact if we do end up facing this dire condition of seeing the sea level rising and the impact that this will have on in a place like Macau, because we have reclaimed land, because we have low-lying areas.
Yes.
That could be a huge problem.
I'm sure some of the citizens or students here are aware of this issue. Us is an example, but over these 2 years, I found out that there is not enough attention being paid to this issue, especially when you're talking about the sea level rise, which will definitely threaten Macau's existence in several decades in the future. And I think it will also create a challenge for Macau's economy. Because nowadays, under the UNFCCC, the framework under UN for climate change, we have promoting a concept, mean adaptation, which means that for those effects that climate change has already resulted in, we need to adapt our society to fit in this new situation of climate change, like changing our agricultural structure or industrial structure or economic structure. And that, I think this is a long-term concern in Macau, and that I think every citizen should pay attention to it. Yes.
And this, of course, entails a lot of cooperation, not only international cooperation, but also regional cooperation. And Sophie, you are from Guangzhou.
Yes.
The Pearl River Delta the integrated development of the Pearl River Delta region. And now we've got all this talk about this concept of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area city cluster.
Yes.
Environment would play a key role here, right?
Yes, it will definitely be one of the major focus of the government in these three places. And also we can see from the One Belt One Road policy, which the Big Bay Area is a strategic important position in the Belt and Road strategy, and that makes us an international platform for promoting this China's green momentum to the international development. And we can see that this Belt and Road strategy, it is most of the country is along those areas that is environmentally vulnerable. So we need this green concept to ensure that our projects towards infrastructure won't be at risk because of extreme weathers, and we need to show the leadership of China's commitment in this global campaign.
Lilian, the green economy element of the Belt and Road strategy, could this be also a sort of a way to push for some environmentally friendly policies and initiatives which would go hand in hand with like the push for infrastructure development, because it is a double-edged sword, because the whole concept could also bring about some sort of environmental problems, so which on the other hand could be tackled by a green economy perspective.
Yes, I agree with Sophie. I think this policy can play an essential role on coping with climate change, because take this Pearl River Delta region as an example. Sometimes the environmental issues can be solved very complicated, because Hong Kong, as they are Macau, together with mainland China, are under different administration systems. So how do the government play a role in these kind of issues? And I think this policy can make some help.
And now, before we wrap up our talk, you are here for students. So what about the future of VChange, of your group, Sophie? Have you got more students involved? And any final words as for incentive, suggestion for those who are, watching this show and ask themselves, what can I do to make a small change?
Yes, I'm going to leave Macau in a few more months, both of us. And yes, we have a new generation of leaders in our organizations, which will take the lead to guide future actions on this issue. And to answer the question, what we can do, I think as students, what we can really change is quite limited. We can't change the whole system in one day or two, but I think just as what the name of our organization sounds like, VChange. We want to change. We want to change not only people's action, but also change how people think. I think this is quite important for university education, because when these students, when we enter into the society, when we become all walks of life, with these sustainable concepts, we will make decisions that is sustainable. For example, if we become a governor or we become policymakers in the future, we will try to balance the environmental costs with other interests, and we will have a sustainable mindset towards economic development. And I think together with this change of mindset, we can generate a huge change in this society. Yes.
Lilian, your final words. What can they do, those youngsters watching us, and not only youngsters, I mean the citizens, and the way you see the future with regards to the involvement of people based in Macau in doing something to tackle this problem.
Yes, I agree with Sophia. I also think that young people are the leader roles of Paris Agreement and other environmental protecting activities, because we are the future of the world and we can make actions to protect the environment. And if we just treat the Paris Agreement and other policies as an agreement, is not the beginning of actions. It's just a piece of paper or something like that. So I think no matter we leave Macau or not, and I think everything will be going on, and maybe we can join some campus energy saving programs or purchasing some coal carbon products and take active action in some environmental groups. We take the most step with young people.
And this is your contribution, and we'll pay close attention to your green path in the years to come. Lilian Wang, Sophie Chen, thank you very much for joining us. A pleasure to have you on the show.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And to you at home, thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.